He mocked her. He crushed her inhaler. He made her beg in front of everyone, and the whole class recorded it. But when Landon found a photograph with his father's bracelet on a stranger's wrist, everything changed. The girl dying in the hospital wasn't just the janitor's daughter, she was his half-sister, and he had just destroyed the only family he never knew he had. Landon Pierce stood over a hospital bed, staring at a girl's lifeless body. Her small hand was cold in his. He whispered the words that would haunt him forever. "I killed my own sister." But he didn't know that yet. Not when it started. Not when he destroyed her in front of everyone. Let me take you back to where it all began. To the moment everything shattered. It was a Thursday afternoon. The classroom still smelled like cheap cologne and dry erase markers. 20 students were supposed to be gone by now, but detention kept them there, loud, restless, bored. Landon sat near the back, scrolling through his Conturi phone, when the door creaked open. Eris stepped inside. She moved quietly, like she was trying to disappear. Her head stayed down. Her backpack hung loose on one shoulder. In her hands, she clutched a dented metal lunchbox covered in faded stickers. "Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family, enjoy the story." Landon saw her, and something twisted in his chest. Not sympathy, not kindness, something darker. He stood up slowly. His chair scraped against the floor. The room went quiet. Everyone turned to look. Well, Landon said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Look who showed up." Eris froze. Her fingers tightened around the lunchbox. "Our after-hours maid," Landon continued, grinning. "Did you come to mop up our mess? Or are you here to beg for scraps?" Laughter exploded around the room. Students nudged each other, pointing. A few pulled out their phones. Eris didn't say anything. She didn't lift her head. She just stood there, trembling. Landon walked toward her, slow, confident. He could see her hands shaking now, could see the way her breath hitched in her chest. That made it worse. He reached out and snatched the lunchbox from her arms. She tried to hold on, but he yanked it free. "Let's see what janitors pack for dinner," he announced, holding it up like a trophy. The class cheered. Someone whistled. Eris whispered something, but no one heard. Landon popped the lunchbox open. Inside were crumpled napkins, a bruised orange, a crushed water bottle, a few pill bottles with peeling labels, and a folded piece of paper, her drawing. He didn't care what any of it meant. He flipped the lunchbox upside down. Everything tumbled out. The orange rolled across the floor. The pill bottles scattered. Her drawing floated down and landed near his feet. But Landon wasn't done. He kicked the drawing. Then he stepped on one of the pill bottles, crushing it under his shoe. The plastic cracked. White powder spilled out. Eris dropped to her knees. Her hands reached for the items, shaking violently now. "Please," she whispered. Her voice was so small, so broken. Landon crouched down beside her. He grabbed her chin and forced her to look up at him. "Say it," he said. "Tell everyone you're nothing without us." Eris's eyes filled with tears. She tried to pull away, but his grip tightened. The class started chanting, "Say it! Say it! Say it!" Phones lifted. Red recording lights blinked. Students zoomed in on her face, capturing every second of her humiliation. Eris's lips trembled. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Just a quiet, desperate gasp. Landon smirked. Louder. "I didn't hear you. Please stop," she whispered again. "That's not what I asked," Landon said coldly. He leaned closer. "Tell me you're nothing. Tell me your mom raised you in a mop closet." The room erupted with laughter. Eris's breathing quickened. Her chest rose and fell in short, panic bursts. She reached for something on the floor, a small plastic inhaler that had rolled near Landon's foot. He saw her reaching for it, and he kicked it across the room. The inhaler slid under a desk. Eris stared at it, then at Landon. Her eyes were wide now, terrified. "What's wrong?" Landon taunted. "Can't breathe without your little toy?" Someone behind him laughed. "She's gonna cry." Eris pressed a hand to her chest. Her breaths came faster, shorter. She tried to stand, but her legs buckled. Landon stood up. brushing his hands off. He glanced at the phones, still recording. He grinned. "Class dismissed," he said. "Show's over." But it wasn't over, because in the doorway, someone gasped. Landon turned, and his smirk vanished. A woman stood there, brown hair pulled into a messy bun, tired eyes, a cleaning cart beside her. Clara, the janitor, Eris's mother. She had heard everything. Clara didn't move. She just stood there, frozen in the doorway, staring at her daughter on the floor. Her hands gripped the handle of the cleaning cart so tight her knuckles turned white. Her chest rose and fell, but she didn't make a sound. She had heard everything, every laugh, every taunt, every cruel word Landon threw at Eris. The students noticed her now. The laughter faded. Phones lowered slightly. A few of them shifted uncomfortably. But no one said anything. Landon turned back to Eris, who was still on her knees, gathering the scattered items with trembling hands. Her breathing was shallow, uneven. Clara finally moved. She let go of the cart and walked into the room. Slow, quiet. Her footsteps barely made a sound. She knelt beside Eris. "Baby," she whispered. Her voice cracked. "Let me help you." Eris didn't look at her. She just kept picking things up, crumpled napkins, the bruised orange, the crushed water bottle. Her hands shook so badly she could barely hold anything. Clara reached out and gently touched her daughter's shoulder. Eris flinched. "I'm sorry," Eris whispered. Her voice was so small, so broken. "I'm sorry, Mom." Clara's face crumbled. She pressed her lips together, trying to hold back tears. But they came anyway, silent and hot, streaming down her cheeks. She didn't say anything. She just started gathering Eris's things with her, one item at a time. The orange, the bottle, the torn drawing that Landon had stepped on. Then she saw it. The inhaler. It was across the room, kicked under a desk. Clara stood and walked over to it. She bent down and picked it up. The plastic was cracked. The cap was missing. It was useless now. She stared at it for a long moment. Then she turned and looked at Landon. Her eyes weren't angry. They weren't even sad. They were something worse. Empty. Like she had seen this kind of cruelty before. Like she expected it. Landon felt something twist in his chest. He didn't know what it was. Guilt? Shame? He pushed it down. Clara walked back to Eris and knelt beside her again. She held up the broken inhaler. "Is this the one from this morning?" she asked softly. Eris nodded. She didn't look up. Clara's hands trembled. She carefully placed the inhaler in Eris's backpack. Then she helped her daughter gather the rest of her things. The class watched in silence now. No one laughed. No one filmed. A few students looked away. If you saw this happen in real life, would you speak up? Or would you just watch? Clara zipped up Eris's backpack and slung it over her own shoulder. Then she gently took Eris's hand and helped her stand. Eris swayed slightly. Her legs were weak. Her breathing was still short and uneven. "Come on, honey," Clara whispered. "Let's go." They walked toward the door together. Clara kept her arm around Eris's shoulders, holding her steady. But before they left, Eris stopped. She turned back and looked at Landon. Her eyes were red, swollen, filled with tears that hadn't stopped falling. She didn't say anything. She just looked at him, like she was trying to understand why. Landon looked away. Clara tugged Eris gently. "Don't look at him, baby. He's not worth it." They left the room. The door closed behind them with a soft click. The classroom was silent. No one moved. No one spoke. Landon stood there, staring at the door. His heart was pounding. His hands felt cold. One of his friends finally broke the silence. "Dude, that was brutal." Landon didn't respond. He couldn't, because for the first time in his life, he felt something he had never felt before. Regret. But it was too late. The damage was done. Outside in the hallway, Clara and Eris walked slowly toward the exit. Eris leaned heavily against her mother, her steps unsteady. "Mom," she whispered, "I'm sorry you had to see that." Clara stopped walking. She turned to face her daughter, cupping her face in both hands. "You have nothing to be sorry for," she said, her voice shaking. "Nothing. Do you hear me?" Eris nodded, But more tears spilled down her cheeks. Clara pulled her into a tight hug. She held her like she was afraid to let go. Like she was trying to shield her from the whole world. "I love you," Clara whispered into her hair. "I love you so much." Eris buried her face in her mother's shoulder. Her small body shook with silent sobs. They stood there for a long moment, just the two of them, holding each other in the empty hallway. Then Eris pulled back. She wiped her eyes and tried to smile. "I'm okay, Mom," she said. "Really?" But Clara knew better. She could see the way Eris's chest rose and fell, could hear the faint wheeze in her breath. She picked up the broken inhaler from the backpack and stared at it again. Her face hardened. Her jaw tightened. She looked down at Eris. "When did you last use it?" Eris hesitated. "This morning." Clara's heart sank. "That was 10 hours ago." Eris looked down. "I know. But you said we couldn't afford a new one yet." Clara felt like someone had stabbed her in the chest. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. "We'll figure it out," she said, quietly. "We always do." But even as she said it, she knew the truth. They were running out of time. They made it halfway across the parking lot before Eris stopped walking. Clara felt her daughter's weight shift, felt her legs give out. "Baby?" Clara turned, panic rising in her throat. Eris's face had gone pale. Her lips were turning a faint shade of blue. She pressed a hand to her chest. "Mom, it hurts." Clara's heart dropped. "What hurts? Your chest?" Eris nodded. Her breathing came in short, desperate gasps, like she was trying to pull air through a straw. Okay, Clara said, her voice shaking. "Just breathe, baby. Slow breaths. Can you do that for me?" Eris tried, but her body wouldn't cooperate. Her knees buckled. Clara caught her before she hit the ground. "Eris, stay with me." Clara lowered her gently onto the pavement. She cradled her daughter's head in her lap. Eris's eyes fluttered. Her chest heaved up and down, but no air seemed to reach her lungs. "Help!" Clara screamed. Her voice echoed across the empty parking lot. "Somebody help us!" A group of students walked past. They glanced over. One of them pulled out their phone. But they didn't stop. They just kept walking. Clara's hands trembled as she brushed Eris's hair back from her face. "Look at me, baby. Look at Mummy." Eris's eyes locked onto hers. They were wide, terrified. "I can't breathe," she whispered. "I know, baby. I know." Clara's tears fell onto Eris's forehead. "Just hold on. Please, just hold on." She looked around desperately. The parking lot was nearly empty. A few cars, a few people in the distance. But no one was coming. "Please," Clara screamed again. "My daughter can't breathe! Someone call an ambulance!" A campus security guard finally jogged over. He knelt beside them, breathing hard. "What happened?" he asked. "She has asthma," Clara said, her voice breaking. "Her inhaler broke. She hasn't had her medication in hours." The guard pulled out his radio. "I need an ambulance at the north parking lot. Medical emergency. Female, juvenile, respiratory distress." Clara nodded, relief flooding through her. "Thank you. Thank you." But Eris wasn't getting better. Her gasps grew weaker. Her body went limp in Clara's arms. "Eris," Clara shook her gently. "Baby, stay with me. Don't close your eyes." Eris's eyelids fluttered. "Mom, I'm sorry." "Don't say that," Clara whispered fiercely. "You have nothing to be sorry for. I made your life harder." Clara's face crumbled. She pulled Eris closer, rocking her gently. "No, baby. You made my life worth living. Do you hear me? You're everything to me." Eris tried to smile, but her eyes rolled back. Her body went completely still. "No, no, no!" Clara's voice cracked. She patted Eris's face frantically. "Eris, wake up! Please wake up!" The guard knelt closer. "Is she breathing?" Clara pressed her ear to Eris's chest. She could barely hear anything. A faint heartbeat. Shallow, irregular. "Barely," she whispered. The guard cursed under his breath. "Where's that ambulance?" Clara held Eris tighter. She whispered into her hair. "Stay with me, baby. Please don't leave me. I need you. I need you so much." Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder, closer. but every second felt like an eternity. Clara looked down at her daughter's pale face, her blue lips, her still body, and she felt something inside her break. The school doors opened behind them. Footsteps approached. Clara didn't look up. She didn't care who it was. She just kept rocking Eris, whispering prayers she wasn't sure anyone was listening to, but someone was watching. Landon stood frozen in the doorway. He had come outside to leave, to go home and forget what happened. But now he saw them. Clara on the ground, Eris limp in her arms, the security guard shouting into his radio. His stomach dropped. This wasn't a joke anymore. This wasn't just some prank that went too far. This was real. Eris wasn't moving. Landon took a step forward, then another. His legs felt weak. His heart pounded in his chest. He stopped a few feet away. Clara still hadn't noticed him. He stared at Eris's face, so pale, so still, and for the first time he realized what he had done. He didn't just humiliate her, he didn't just break her things. He broke her inhaler, the one thing keeping her alive. The ambulance screeched into the parking lot. Paramedics jumped out, rushing over with a stretcher and equipment. "Step back, ma'am," one of them said gently to Clara. Clara didn't move. She held Eris tighter. "Ma'am, we need to help her, please." Clara finally let go. The paramedics lifted Eris onto the stretcher. They strapped an oxygen mask over her face. One of them checked her pulse. "Pulse is weak. Respiratory distress. We need to move now." They wheeled her toward the ambulance. Clara scrambled to her feet and followed. "I'm coming with her," she said. "Of course," the paramedic said. "Get in." Clara climbed into the back of the ambulance. She grabbed Eris's hand and squeezed it tight. The doors slammed shut. The siren blared, and the ambulance sped away. Landon stood there in the parking lot, alone, shaking. He looked down at his hands, the same hands that kicked her inhaler across the room, the same hands that grabbed her chin and forced her to look at him. He whispered into the empty air, "What did I do?" But there was no answer, just the fading sound of sirens in the distance, and the horrible, suffocating silence that followed. The ambulance doors flew open. Paramedics wheeled Eris through the emergency room entrance, shouting medical terms Clara didn't understand. Female, 12 years old, severe asthma attack, oxygen saturation at 78%. Clara ran beside the stretcher, gripping Eris's hand. Her daughter's eyes were half closed, the oxygen mask fogged with each shallow breath. "Stay with me, baby," Clara whispered. "We're at the hospital now. They're going to help you." Eris's fingers twitched weakly in her mother's palm. A nurse stepped in front of Clara, blocking her path. "Ma'am, you need to wait here." "No," Clara's voice broke. "I'm not leaving her. We'll take care of her," the nurse said firmly. "But you have to let us work." Clara watched helplessly as they wheeled Eris through double doors. The doors swung shut, and just like that, her daughter was gone. Clara stood there, trembling. Her legs felt weak, her chest tight. She pressed her hands against the glass window, watching doctors and nurses swarm around Eris's small body. They hooked her up to machines, put an IV in her arm. Someone pushed a breathing tube down her throat. Clara's tears blurred her vision. She couldn't look away. A different nurse approached her, older, tired eyes, clipboard in hand. "Ma'am, I need to ask you some questions." Clara didn't turn around. "Is she going to be okay?" "The doctors are doing everything they can," the nurse said gently. "But I need information. Does your daughter have insurance?" Clara's stomach dropped. She finally looked at the nurse. "We lost it," she whispered. 6 months ago. I couldn't afford the payments." The nurse's expression didn't change. She just wrote something down. "Does she have any pre-existing conditions?" "Asthma," Clara said. "Severe asthma. She needs medication every day. But I couldn't afford to refill her prescription this month." The nurse paused. "When was the last time she used her inhaler?" Clara's voice cracked. "This morning. 10 hours ago. It broke this afternoon and I couldn't replace it. Imagine being her mother. Imagine watching your child die because you can't afford to save her." The nurse looked at Clara for a long moment. Then she glanced back at the room where Eris lay. "I'll see what we can do," she said quietly. Clara nodded, but she knew what that meant. It meant they would do the bare minimum: stabilize her, send her home, and hope for the best. It meant her daughter's life depended on money she didn't have. Hours passed. Clara sat in a plastic chair outside the emergency room. She didn't move, didn't eat, didn't drink. She just stared at the doors, waiting. Other families came and went. Some left smiling, some left crying. Clara just sat there, frozen. Finally, a doctor emerged. He looked exhausted. His scrubs were wrinkled, his face serious. Clara jumped to her feet. "How is she?" The doctor gestured for her to sit. She didn't. "Your daughter is stable for now," he said. "We've given her oxygen and steroids to open her airways." "But—" Clara's heart stopped. "But what?" The doctor hesitated. "Her lungs are severely damaged. Years of untreated asthma have caused scarring. She's developed complications." Clara's hands started shaking. "What kind of complications?" "Her heart is under strain. The lack of oxygen has weakened it. If we don't intervene soon," he trailed off. "Intervene how?" Clara whispered. "She needs surgery. Tonight." Clara felt the world tilt. "Surgery?" The doctor nodded. "We need to repair the damage before her heart gives out. It's a delicate procedure, but it's her best chance." Clara's legs felt weak. She grabbed the wall to steady herself. "How much?" The doctor's eyes softened. "I'm not sure of the exact cost. But without insurance," he paused, "it could be anywhere from $60,000 to $80,000. The number hit Clara like a punch to the chest. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. "I don't have that," she whispered. "I don't have anything close to that." The doctor looked down. "I understand. But without the surgery—" He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Clara's knees buckled. She sank to the floor, her back against the wall. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." The doctor knelt beside her. "There are programs, financial aid, payment plans. We can explore options." But Clara barely heard him. All she could think about was Eris, her baby, lying in a hospital bed, fighting for her life. And there was nothing Clara could do to save her. She looked up at the doctor, tears streaming down her face. "How long does she have?" The doctor's jaw tightened. "If we don't operate within the next few hours—" He paused. "I can't make any promises." Clara buried her face in her hands. Her whole body shook with sobs. The doctor stood. "I'll give you a moment. But we need a decision soon." He walked away, leaving Clara alone in the hallway. She sat there on the cold hospital floor, feeling more helpless than she had ever felt in her life. Behind her, footsteps approached. Slow, hesitant. Clara didn't look up. She didn't care who it was. "Miss Daniels?" The voice made her freeze. She knew that voice. Slowly, she lifted her head. Landon Pierce stood in front of her, his face pale, his hands trembling. "What are you doing here?" Clara's voice was barely a whisper. Landon swallowed hard. I came to see if she was okay." Clara stared at him. Then, she laughed. A bitter, broken sound. "If she's okay," Clara's voice rose. "You destroyed her inhaler. You humiliated her in front of everyone. And now she's dying because I can't afford to save her." Landon's face crumbled. "I didn't know she was sick. I swear, I didn't know." "You didn't care," Clara spat. "That's the problem. You never cared." Landon opened his mouth. But before he could speak, alarms blared from inside the emergency room. Clara's head whipped toward the sound. Her blood ran cold. A nurse burst through the doors. "We need the doctor! She's crashing!" Clara ran. She didn't think. She just moved. She burst through the emergency room doors, her eyes searching frantically. Doctors surrounded Eris's bed. Machines beeped wildly. Someone shouted numbers Clara didn't understand. "Clear!" Eris's small body jerked on the table. Clara's scream tore through the room. "No! Please! God! No!" A nurse grabbed her. "Ma'am, you can't be in here. That's my daughter." Clara fought against the nurse's grip. "Let me go to her. We're doing everything we can," the nurse said firmly. "But you need to step back." Clara watched through blurred vision as they shocked Eris again. And again. Finally, The frantic beeping steadied into a rhythm. Slower, weaker, but steady. The doctor exhaled. We've got her back. For now. Clara collapsed against the wall, sobbing. The nurse guided her back to the hallway. Landon stood exactly where Clara had left him. His face was white. His hands shook. Clara wiped her eyes and turned to him. Her grief twisted into fury. "This is your fault," she whispered. Landon flinched. "Miss Daniels, you did this!" Clara's voice rose. "You broke her inhaler. You humiliated her. You made her feel like she was nothing." "I'm sorry," Landon said, his voice cracking. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know she was sick." "I swear, you didn't care," Clara shouted. "That's worse! You saw a child and you crushed her for fun!" Landon's eyes filled with tears. I know I did, and I'll never forgive myself for it." Clara laughed bitterly. "You think saying sorry makes this okay?" "No," Landon whispered. "Nothing makes this okay." They stood in silence. The beeping of machines echoed from the emergency room. Landon swallowed hard. "Miss Daniels, I heard what the doctor said about the surgery." Clara's jaw tightened. "Don't. I can pay for it," Landon said quickly. "My family has money. I can cover the surgery. All of it." Clara stared at him. For a moment, she didn't speak. Then she stepped closer. "You think money fixes what you did?" Her voice was low, dangerous. Landon shook his head. "No, but maybe it can save her life." "You destroyed her spirit," Clara said, her voice breaking. "You made her feel worthless. You took away her dignity. And now you want to throw money at it like that erases what you did?" "I don't want to erase it," Landon said desperately. "I just want to help." Clara's eyes blazed. "You can't help. You can't undo this. You can't make her forget what you did." "I know," Landon whispered. "But she needs the surgery. Please, let me do this one thing." Clara turned away. She pressed her hands to her face, trying to breathe, trying to think. She hated him. Everything in her wanted to tell him to leave, to take his money and his guilt and disappear. But Eris was dying, and Clara had no other options. She turned back to Landon, her face hard. "If I let you do this, it doesn't make us even. It doesn't make you a good person. You understand that?" Landon nodded. "I understand. And if she dies..." Clara's voice broke. "If she dies, I will never forgive you. Never." "I know," Landon whispered. Clara walked past him toward the nurse's station. Landon followed a few steps behind. As they walked, something fluttered to the ground from Clara's bag. A photograph. Landon bent down and picked it up. His breath caught. The photo was old, faded. It showed a young woman holding a newborn baby. The woman looked exhausted but happy. The baby was wrapped in a pink blanket. Clara and Eris. But that wasn't what made Landon freeze. In the corner of the photo, barely visible, was a man's wrist, just the edge of his arm. And on that wrist was a bracelet, silver, with an engraved pattern. Landon knew that bracelet. He looked down at his own wrist, at the identical bracelet his father had given him when he was 6 years old. His father had told him it was a family heirloom, that only Pierce men wore it. Landon's hands started shaking. He looked at the photo again, at the date written on the back, 13 years ago. His mind raced. His father had been at a college event that year. Landon remembered because his mother had been furious about it. They'd fought for weeks. His father had said it was nothing, just a business trip. But this photo, Landon looked up. Clara was at the nurse's station, filling out paperwork. She hadn't noticed the photo was missing. Landon stared at the bracelet in the picture, then at his own. His stomach turned. No, it couldn't be. But the truth was right there in his hands. That man in the photo, the one whose wrist wore the Pierce family bracelet, that was his father, which meant Landon's breath came in short gasps. His vision blurred. Eris wasn't just some random girl he had bullied. She was his sister, his half-sister, the daughter his father had abandoned, the child his father had never acknowledged. And Landon had destroyed her. He had mocked her, humiliated her, broken her inhaler. He had done to his own sister what his father had done to Clara. The photo slipped from his fingers. It floated to the ground, landing face up. Landon stared at it, at the baby who would grow up to be heiress, at the woman who would raise her alone, at the bracelet that proved everything. His legs gave out. He stumbled backward, hitting the wall. Clara turned around. She saw him standing there, pale and shaking. "What's wrong with you?" she asked coldly. Landon couldn't speak. He just pointed at the photo on the floor. Clara walked over and picked it up. She looked at it, then at Landon. Her face changed. The anger drained away, replaced by something else. Recognition. "You know," she whispered. Landon's voice came out broken. "That bracelet, it's my father's." Clara's eyes filled with tears. But she didn't look surprised. She looked tired, like she had been carrying this secret for 13 years. And now it was finally out. "Yes," she said quietly. "It is." Landon stumbled out of the hospital into the cold night air. His hands shook as he pulled out his phone. He stared at his father's contact for a long moment. Then he pressed call. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. "Landon?" His father's voice was sharp, annoyed. "It's late. What do you want?" Landon's throat tightened. "Dad, I need to ask you something. Make it quick. I have a meeting in the morning." Landon closed his eyes. "Do you know a woman named Clara Daniels?" Silence. Long, cold silence. "Who?" his father finally said. "Clara Daniels," Landon repeated, his voice shaking. "She worked at the college 13 years ago. She was a janitor." His father exhaled slowly. "Son, I don't keep track of every person I've met." "You know her," Landon pressed. "I saw a photo. You were there. Your bracelet was in the picture." Another pause. Longer this time. "What is this about?" His father's tone shifted. Colder now. Guarded. Landon's grip tightened on the phone. "A baby was born, Dad. A little girl. She's 12 now. And she's dying in the hospital because she can't breathe." His father said nothing. "I think." Landon's voice broke. "I think she's my sister." The silence that followed felt like a knife. When his father finally spoke, his voice was ice. "Where are you getting this from?" "The photo," Landon said. "The bracelet. The timeline. It all matches." "You're being ridiculous." "Am I?" Landon's voice rose. "Because Clara didn't deny it. She looked at me, and she didn't deny it." His father cursed under his breath. "Listen to me carefully. If something happened that night, it wasn't important." Landon felt the ground drop beneath him. "What?" "You heard me," his father said coldly. "It was one night, 13 years ago. I don't owe her anything." "She had your child," Landon shouted. "So she claims," his father snapped. "Do you have proof? A DNA test? Anything?" Landon's hands trembled. "You're not even denying it." "I'm telling you it doesn't matter," his father said. "People like her? They don't matter in the long run. They survive. They always do." Landon felt sick. "People like her? She's a human being. She raised your daughter alone. If she chose to keep it, that's her problem," his father said dismissively. "I had a life, a career, a family. I wasn't about to throw that away." "You destroyed her life," Landon whispered. His father laughed. A short, bitter sound. "Destroyed? Please. She's still alive, isn't she?" Landon couldn't breathe, couldn't think. "You're a monster." "I'm a realist," his father said. "And you need to stop digging into things that don't concern you." "It concerns me," Landon's voice cracked. "Because I hurt her too. I bullied that little girl, Dad. I humiliated her in front of everyone. I broke her inhaler, and now she's dying." His father was quiet for a moment. Then he sighed. "So that's what this is about. Guilt." "She's my sister," Landon shouted. "She's nothing," his father said coldly. "A mistake from a night I barely remember. Don't make her into something she's not." Landon felt tears streaming down his face. "I can't believe you." "Believe what you want," his father said. "But don't call me about this again. Handle it yourself." The line went dead. Landon stared at his phone. His chest heaved. His whole body shook. He sank to the ground, his back against the hospital wall. His father didn't care. He never cared. Clara had been alone for 13 years, raising a daughter his father refused to acknowledge, struggling to survive while the Pierce family lived in wealth and comfort. And Landon? Landon had repeated the same cruelty without even knowing. 2 generations of Pierce men had destroyed Clara's life. His father had hurt her first, abandoned her, left her with nothing. And Landon had finished what his father started. He had crushed Clara's daughter, humiliated her, broken her spirit. Sometimes the cruelest thing we do is repeat the sins of those before us. Have you ever hurt someone without knowing their story? Landon looked down at the bracelet on his wrist, the one his father had given him, the symbol of the Pierce family legacy. He tore it off and threw it across the parking lot. It clattered against the pavement and disappeared into the darkness. Landon buried his face in his hands. He thought about Eris, about the way she had trembled when he grabbed her chin, the way she had whispered please, while everyone laughed. She wasn't just some random girl. She was his blood, his sister, and he had destroyed her. He stood up slowly, wiping his eyes. He walked back into the hospital, his steps heavy. Clara was sitting in the waiting room now. Her head was in her hands. She looked small, broken. Landon approached her carefully. "Miss Daniels?" Clara didn't look up. "I called my father," Landon said quietly. Clara's shoulders tensed. "He admitted it," Landon continued, not in so many words, but he didn't deny it either. Clara finally looked up. Her eyes were red, swollen. "He said you don't matter," Landon whispered. "He said Eris doesn't matter." Clara's face hardened, but she didn't look surprised. "I know what he thinks of us," she said quietly. Landon sat down beside her. Not too close, just close enough. "I'm sorry," he whispered, "for everything, for what he did, for what I did." Clara stared straight ahead. "Your apologies don't change anything." "I know," Landon said. They sat in silence. The hospital hummed around them. Machines beeped. Footsteps echoed. Finally, Clara spoke. "She's not going to make it, is she?" Landon's throat tightened. "The doctor said." "I know what the doctor said," Clara interrupted. "But we both know the truth. Even if you pay for the surgery, there's no guarantee." Landon didn't know what to say. Clara turned to him. Her eyes were empty, haunted. "I want you to know something," she said quietly. "Your father took everything from me. My dignity, my future, my choices." She paused. "And you took the only thing I had left." Landon felt like he'd been stabbed. Clara stood up. "If she dies, it's on both of you." She walked away, leaving Landon alone in the waiting room. And for the first time in his life, Landon understood what it meant to carry a burden you could never put down. The alarms came without warning. Clara was standing by the vending machine, trying to force herself to eat something. Anything. Her hands shook as she fed coins into the slot. Then she heard it. A high-pitched wail from inside the emergency room. Urgent, piercing. Her blood turned to ice. She dropped the coins. They scattered across the floor. Clara ran. She burst through the doors just as nurses rushed past her. Doctors shouted orders. Someone yelled for the crash cart. Clara's eyes found Eris's bed. The monitor beside it showed a single flat line. No peaks, no valleys. Just one long, endless tone. "No." The word came out as a whisper. Then louder. "No." A nurse grabbed Clara's arm. "Ma'am, you need to step back." Clara ripped free. "That's my daughter." "We're doing everything we can," the nurse said firmly. "But you cannot be in here." Clara watched in horror as they surrounded Eris. One doctor pressed paddles to her chest, charging to 150. "Clear." Eris's small body jerked. The flat line continued. "Again," the doctor ordered. 200. Clear. Another jolt. Eris's back arched off the table. Nothing changed. Clara's legs gave out. She grabbed the doorframe to keep from collapsing. "Come on," the doctor muttered. "Come on, sweetheart. Stay with us." They tried again. And again. Each time, Eris's body responded to the shock. But the line on the monitor stayed flat. Clara couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The world narrowed to that single sound. The flat line. Constant. Unforgiving. final. How long? Someone asked. 4 minutes, a nurse said. 4 minutes without oxygen. 4 minutes of her daughter's brain shutting down. Clara pressed her hands to her mouth, muffling a scream. The doctor kept working. Sweat dripped down his face. His movements became more frantic. "One more time," he said. "Maximum charge. Clear." The jolt was stronger this time. Eris's whole body lifted off the bed. For a moment, everyone held their breath. The monitor beeped once, twice, then went flat again. The doctor stepped back. His shoulders slumped. "Time?" he asked quietly. A nurse checked her watch. 8:17 p.m. The doctor looked at Clara. His eyes were filled with something worse than pity. Defeat. "I'm sorry," he said. Those 2 words shattered Clara's world. "No." Clara's voice was barely human. "No. You keep trying. You keep trying." "Ma'am, she's 12 years old," Clara screamed. "She's 12. You don't give up on her." The doctor approached slowly, gently. "We did everything we could. Her heart couldn't take the strain." "I'm so sorry." Clara shook her head violently. "No, no. She's not gone. She's not." But the flat line continued. Steady, unchanging, true. Clara pushed past the nurse and ran to Eris's bedside. Her daughter's face was peaceful, too peaceful. Her lips were pale, her skin cold. Clara grabbed Eris's hand. It felt like holding ice. "Baby, wake up," Clara whispered. "Please wake up. Mommy's here. I'm right here." Eris didn't move. "Please," Clara begged, her voice breaking. "Please don't leave me. I need you. I can't do this without you." Nothing. Clara collapsed over her daughter's body, sobbing. Her whole body shook with the force of her grief. "I'm sorry," she whispered into Eris's hair. "I'm so sorry I couldn't protect you. I'm sorry I couldn't save you." The nurses stood back, giving her space. The doctor quietly removed his gloves. One by one, they turned off the machines, the oxygen, the IV, the monitors, until the only sound in the room was Clara's broken sobs. Outside in the hallway, Landon stood frozen. He had heard the alarms, heard the shouting, heard Clara's screams, and now he heard the silence. That terrible, empty silence that meant it was over. His legs felt weak. He leaned against the wall, trying to process what just happened. Eris was gone. His sister was dead. The girl he had tormented. The girl he had humiliated. The girl whose inhaler he had kicked across the room. She was gone, and it was his fault. Landon pressed his hands to his face. Tears streamed through his fingers. "No," he whispered. "Please, no." But his whispers couldn't bring her back. Nothing could. Inside the emergency room, Clara lifted her head. Her eyes were swollen, her face streaked with tears. She looked at the doctor. "Can I have a moment alone with her?" The doctor nodded. "Take all the time you need." The medical staff filed out quietly. The door closed with a soft click. Clara was alone with her daughter's body. She climbed onto the bed beside Eris. She wrapped her arms around her, held her close. "I love you," Clara whispered. "I love you so much. You were the best thing that ever happened to me." She stroked Eris's hair, kissed her forehead. "I'm sorry the world was so cruel to you. I'm sorry I couldn't make it better." Clara's voice broke. "You deserved so much more." She lay there holding Eris, whispering to her, promising her things that would never come true, promising her a future she would never have. Outside, Landon sank to the floor. He buried his face in his hands. And for the first time since this nightmare began, he understood something. Some things can't be fixed. Some mistakes can't be undone. Some losses are forever. The flatline tone had stopped, but the silence it left behind was somehow worse. Landon sat there in that silence, knowing he would hear it for the rest of his life. The silence that came after he destroyed his sister. The silence that proved there are some sins you can never escape. The stretcher rolled slowly down the hallway. Clara walked beside it, her hand resting on the white sheet that covered Eris's body. Her steps were mechanical, numb. Nurses moved quietly around them, speaking in hushed tones, but Clara didn't hear them, didn't see them. All she saw was the outline of her daughter beneath that sheet. They stopped outside a set of double doors. A nurse touched Clara's arm gently. "Ma'am, we need to take her now." Clara's grip tightened on the stretcher. "Just one more minute, please." The nurse nodded and stepped back. Clara lifted the sheet carefully, just enough to see Eris's face. Her daughter looked peaceful, like she was sleeping. Her features were soft, relaxed, but her skin was cold, too cold. Clara bent down and kissed her forehead. Her lips trembled against Eris's skin. "Sweet dreams, baby," she whispered. She stroked Eris's hair, the way she used to when Eris was little and couldn't sleep. Then Clara began to hum a lullaby, the same one she had sung every night since Eris was born. Her voice cracked, broke, but she kept singing. "Hush, little baby, don't say a word." Tears streamed down her face, dripping onto Eris's still body. "Mama's gonna buy you a mockingbird." The nurses looked away. Some wiped their own eyes. Clara's voice faded to a whisper. She kissed Eris one more time. On the forehead, on each cheek, on her cold hands. "I love you," she whispered. "Forever and always." She pulled the sheet back over Eris's face. The nurses wheeled the stretcher through the double doors. Clara watched until they disappeared. Then, she stood there in the empty hallway, alone. Her legs trembled. Her chest felt hollow, like someone had reached in and torn out her heart. She pressed her back against the wall and slid down to the floor. And she wept. Deep, guttural sobs that shook her entire body. She had lost everything. Her daughter, her reason for living, her entire world, gone. Footsteps approached. Slow, hesitant. Clara didn't look up. She didn't care who it was. "Miss Daniels?" Landon's voice. Clara's hands clenched into fists, but she didn't move. Landon stood a few feet away. His face was pale, his eyes red and swollen. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." Clara didn't respond. Landon took a shaky breath. "I need to tell you something." "I don't want to hear it," Clara said, her voice hollow. "Please," Landon begged. "I need you to know." Clara finally looked up. Her eyes were empty, dead. Landon swallowed hard. "I talked to my father. About the photo. About everything." Clara's jaw tightened. "He didn't deny it," Landon continued. "He said it didn't matter. That you didn't matter." Clara's face remained expressionless. Landon's voice broke. "Miss Daniels, Eris was my sister." The words hung in the air. Clara stared at him. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she laughed, a bitter, broken sound. "Your sister," she repeated slowly. Landon nodded, tears streaming down his face. "I didn't know. I swear, I didn't know." Clara stood up. Her movements were slow, deliberate. She walked toward Landon until she was inches from his face. "You killed her spirit," she said quietly. Landon flinched. "You humiliated her," Clara continued. "You made her feel worthless. You destroyed the one thing I spent 12 years trying to build." "I know." "You kicked her inhaler across the room." Clara's voice rose. "You made her beg while people filmed. You crushed her dignity for entertainment." Landon's whole body shook. "I'm sorry." Clara's eyes blazed with fury. "And now you want to claim her? Now that she's dead? Now that it's convenient?" "No. You don't get to be her brother," Clara spat. "You don't get to mourn her. You don't get to feel sorry." Landon stumbled backward. "Miss Daniels, you killed her," Clara said, her voice cold. "Not with your hands, but with your words, your cruelty, your pride." She stepped closer. "Your father abandoned her before she was born, and you destroyed her before she could grow up." Clara's voice dropped to a whisper. "2 generations of Pierce men. Both of you took everything from her." Landon's knees buckled. He grabbed the wall to keep from falling. "Don't you dare claim her now," Clara said. "You had 12 years to be her brother. You chose to be her nightmare instead. Some truths come too late. If this hit you, don't let it fade. Share it so others remember." Clara turned away. She walked down the hallway without looking back. Landon stood there, broken, shattered. He had wanted to confess, to share the burden, to make Clara understand that he was suffering too. But she was right. He didn't deserve to mourn Eris. He didn't deserve to call her his sister. He had destroyed her. And now, he had to live with that. Clara reached the end of the hallway and stopped. She pressed her forehead against the wall. Her shoulders shook, but she didn't make a sound. She had nothing left. No tears, no energy, no hope, just emptiness. Behind her, Landon sank to the floor. He buried his face in his hands. And for the first time, he understood what it meant to lose everything. Not because someone took it from you, but because you destroyed it yourself. The hospital hummed around them. Life continued. People came and went. But for Clara and Landon, time had stopped. In that hallway, on that night, when a 12-year-old girl died, and two people learned that some sins can never be forgiven, not by others, and not by yourself. Clara straightened slowly. She wiped her face with the back of her hand, then she whispered something so quiet, Landon almost didn't hear it. She drew a picture of you once. Did you know that? Landon's head snapped up. Clara's voice was distant. Haunted. She called it my family. It had 3 people. Me, her, and a blank space where her father should be. She turned around. Her eyes met Landon's. She wanted you, Clara whispered. Not you specifically, but someone like you. A brother, a father, family. Clara's face twisted with pain. And you gave her the opposite of love. She walked away. Her footsteps echoed down the empty corridor. And Landon stayed on the floor, those words carving themselves into his soul. She wanted you, and you destroyed her. Clara sat on the cold metal chair outside the morgue. Her body hadn't moved in 3 hours. A nurse approached with a cup of water. Miss Daniels, you should drink something. Clara stared at the wall. I'm not leaving her. Ma'am, you need rest. I'm not leaving my daughter alone in there, Clara said. Her voice flat, empty. The nurse placed the water on the floor beside her. I'll check on you in a bit. Clara didn't respond. She just kept staring at the morgue doors. Behind those doors was Eris, cold, still, alone. Clara couldn't bear the thought of leaving, of going home to an empty apartment, of waking up tomorrow and remembering all over again that her daughter was gone. So she stayed. Minutes turned into hours. The hospital buzzed with activity around her. Doctors rushed past. Families came and went. Life continued. But Clara's world had stopped. She clutched Eris's stuffed bear to her chest. The one Eris had slept with every night since she was 3. The one that still smelled like her. Clara buried her face in it and breathed deeply. It was the only piece of her daughter she had left. A security guard walked by and paused. Ma'am, visiting hours ended 2 hours ago. Clara looked up at him with hollow eyes. My daughter is in there. The guard's expression softened. I'm sorry for your loss, but you can come back tomorrow. She's 12, Clara whispered. She's scared of the dark. I can't leave her alone in the dark. The guard's throat tightened. He nodded slowly and walked away. Clara went back to staring at the doors. Her mind replayed the last 12 years. Every birthday, every scraped knee, every bedtime story, every moment she had held Eris and promised her everything would be okay. She had lied. She couldn't protect her, couldn't save her, couldn't even afford to keep her alive. Clara's chest tightened. Her breathing became shallow. She pressed a hand to her heart. It was beating too fast, too hard. Another nurse approached. Younger this time. Concerned. Miss Daniels, when was the last time you ate? Clara didn't answer. Or drank water? Nothing. The nurse knelt in front of her. You need to take care of yourself. Clara's voice came out broken. Why? The nurse blinked. I'm sorry? Why should I take care of myself? Clara repeated. She's gone. What's the point? The nurse's eyes filled with tears. I know it hurts, but you have to keep going. Clara shook her head slowly. I don't want to. She meant it. Every word. Without Eris, there was nothing left. No reason to wake up. No reason to fight. No reason to exist. The nurse tried to help her stand. Let me get you something to eat. No. Clara pulled away. I'm staying here. Miss Daniels. I said no. Clara's voice cracked. Don't touch me. Don't move me. Just let me be with my daughter." The nurse backed away, helpless. Clara slumped forward, her head in her hands. Her whole body trembled. She whispered to herself, "She died thinking she was a burden. She died thinking she made my life harder." Tears dripped through her fingers. "I never got to tell her she was the only reason I kept going." Her breathing quickened. Panic clawed at her chest. "I never told her she was everything to me." The bear slipped from her hands and fell to the floor. Clara didn't pick it up. She just stared at it. Then her vision blurred. The room tilted. She tried to stand, but her legs wouldn't hold her. "Help," she whispered. But no one heard. Clara's knees buckled. She collapsed forward, her body hitting the cold tile floor. The crash echoed through the hallway. Nurses ran over. Someone shouted for a doctor. "Miss Daniels, can you hear me?" Clara's eyes fluttered. She could see them moving around her, could hear their voices, but everything felt distant, unreal. Her pulse is weak. She's in shock. "Get her to the ER, now." They lifted her onto a stretcher. Clara tried to speak, tried to tell them to let her stay, but no words came out. All she could do was reach weakly toward the morgue doors, toward Eris. "I'm sorry, baby," she whispered. "I'm so sorry." Then everything went black. Down the hallway, Landon saw it all happen. He had been sitting against the wall, unable to leave, unable to face the world outside. He watched as Clara collapsed, watched as they rushed to help her, and he realized something that made his stomach drop. He wasn't just losing Eris, he was losing Clara too, the woman who had raised his sister alone, who had sacrificed everything for her, who had loved her more than anything in the world. Clara was breaking, shutting down, giving up, and it was his fault. Landon stood up, his legs shaking. He followed as they wheeled Clara toward the ER. A nurse tried to stop him. "Family only. Landon's voice caught. "I'm all she has." It wasn't true. Not really. But it felt true. Because Clara had no one else. No family to call. No friends waiting in the lobby. Just a boy who had destroyed her life. The nurse hesitated, then let him through. Landon stood in the corner of the ER as doctors worked on Clara. They hooked her up to monitors, started an IV, checked her vitals. She's severely dehydrated, malnourished. Her body's in shock. How long has she been like this? Hard to say. Days, maybe. She's been running on nothing but grief. Landon watched Clara's pale face. Her chest rose and fell weakly, and he whispered the words that had been building inside him since Eris died. "I'm losing her too." Not in the way he lost Eris. Not through death, but through something just as permanent. Clara was slipping away, into a darkness so deep, Landon wasn't sure she could ever come back. And he couldn't blame her, because he had taken everything from her. Her daughter, her hope, her reason to live. The doctor turned to Landon. "Are you related to her?" Landon's throat tightened. "Sort of." The doctor frowned. "We need to keep her overnight for observation. Her body needs rest, and she needs psychological support." Landon nodded numbly. "Do you know if she has anyone? Family? Friends?" Landon looked at Clara's still form on the hospital bed. "No," he whispered. "She has no one." The doctor's expression darkened. "Then she's going to need you, because right now, she's giving up." Landon felt the weight of those words crush him. Clara was giving up, and Landon was the reason why. Clara woke to the sound of machines beeping. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. Then it all came rushing back. The hospital, the morgue, Eris's cold body beneath that white sheet. Her chest tightened. She tried to sit up, but her body felt heavy, weak. A nurse appeared beside her bed. "Easy, Miss Daniels. You've been out for several hours." Clara's voice came out hoarse. "Where's my daughter?" The nurse's eyes filled with sympathy. "She's being taken care of. You need to rest now. I want to see her. Soon," the nurse said gently. "But first, you need to recover. Your body shut down from exhaustion." Clara turned her face away. She didn't want to recover. She didn't want to be here. She wanted to be with Eris. The nurse checked Clara's the then hesitated. "Miss Daniels, there's something you should know." Clara didn't respond. The hospital received a call this morning from the charity board. Clara's eyes slowly moved to the nurse. They approved emergency funding for the surgery your daughter needed. Clara's breath caught. What? Someone made a substantial donation, called the board directly and pushed it through. Clara sat up, ignoring the pain. When? This morning, around 6 a.m. 6 hours after Eris died. Clara felt something crack inside her chest. Who? The nurse pulled out a file and read the name. Landon Pierce. The room tilted. Clara grabbed the bed rail to steady herself. Landon had paid. After everything. After Eris was already gone. He had thrown his family's money at a problem he had created. At a life he had destroyed. And it meant nothing. How much? Clara whispered. The full amount. $85,000. Clara laughed. A broken, hollow sound. He paid to save a dead girl. The nurse looked uncomfortable. He didn't know. The board told me he called in the middle of the night. He sounded desperate. Clara's hands trembled. I don't want his money. Miss Daniels, I don't want it. Clara's voice cracked. He thinks he can buy forgiveness? He thinks $85,000 erases what he did? The nurse stepped back. The money has already been processed. It's going toward your daughter's final expenses. And your medical bills. Clara felt sick. I don't want his guilt money. It's not guilt, the nurse said quietly. It's all he has left to give. Clara turned away, tears streaming down her face. I don't want his money. I want my daughter. The nurse touched Clara's shoulder gently. I know. I'm so sorry. She left the room, closing the door softly behind her. Clara sat there in the silence, staring at the wall. Landon had paid. Too late. Too meaningless. Too empty. Money couldn't bring Eris back. Couldn't undo the humiliation. Couldn't erase the cruelty. It was just another reminder that the Pierce family thought everything could be bought. Money can't undo cruelty. If you've ever said something you can't take back, you understand this pain. Clara lay back down, closing her eyes. But she couldn't sleep, couldn't rest. All she could see was Eris's face, pale, peaceful, gone. Outside Clara's room, Landon sat in the hallway with his head in his hands. He had made the call at 3 a.m, desperate, frantic, begging the charity board to approve the funding. They had agreed, pushed it through immediately. But by then, Eris was already dead. Landon had spent $85,000 to save a life that was already lost. A nurse had told him Clara was awake, that she knew about the donation. Landon wanted to go in, to explain, to apologize again. But what was the point? Clara didn't want his apologies, didn't want his money, didn't want anything from him, and she was right to feel that way. He had destroyed her daughter, and now he was trying to ease his guilt by throwing money at the problem. It was pathetic. Landon stood up slowly. He walked to Clara's door, but didn't open it. He pressed his hand against the wood, wishing he could undo everything, wishing he could go back to that classroom and make different choices. But he couldn't. Some things are permanent. Some mistakes are forever. He pulled his hand back and walked away. As he left the hospital, the morning sun was rising. The world looked normal. People walked by, talking on phones, drinking coffee, living their lives like nothing had happened, like a 12-year-old girl hadn't died last night. Landon got into his car and sat there, staring at nothing. He had paid $85,000, but it didn't make him feel better, didn't ease the guilt, didn't change anything. Because money can't buy back a life, can't purchase forgiveness, can't undo cruelty. Landon whispered to his empty car, I don't deserve forgiveness. And for the first time, he truly believed it. Back in the hospital, Clara received a visitor. A hospital administrator entered her room, holding a folder. Miss Daniels, I'm sorry to disturb you, but we need to discuss arrangements. Clara knew what that meant. Funeral arrangements. For Eris. We've contacted a funeral home, and with the donation Mr. Pierce made, all expenses will be covered. Clara's jaw tightened. I don't want his money for that either. The administrator hesitated. With all due respect, ma'am, you don't have many options. Clara looked at her with empty eyes. Then I guess I don't have a choice. The administrator placed the folder on the bedside table. Take your time. We can discuss this when you're ready. She left. Clara stared at the folder. Inside were forms, papers to sign, decisions to make, about caskets, burial plots, services, all paid for by the boy who killed her daughter's spirit. Clara opened the folder with shaking hands, and inside, she found something that made her freeze. A handwritten note from Landon. It was short, simple, devastating. I'm sorry, I never got to know her. I'm sorry, I destroyed her instead. She deserved a better brother, a better family, a better world. I will carry this for the rest of my life. L. Clara. Read it 3 times. Then she crumpled it in her fist and threw it across the room. Because words didn't matter anymore. Money didn't matter. Apologies didn't matter. The only thing that mattered was gone. And nothing Landon Pierce could do would ever bring her back. Landon stood outside Clara's hospital room for 20 minutes before he finally knocked. No answer. He knocked again. Miss Daniels? It's Landon. Can I come in? Silence. He pushed the door open slowly. Clara was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling. Her face was pale, empty. I don't want to see you, she said without looking at him. I know, Landon whispered, but I need to tell you something. Please. Clara didn't respond, didn't move. Landon stepped inside and closed the door behind him. He stood at the foot of her bed, his hands trembling. I talked to my father. Again, he said quietly. Clara's eyes stayed fixed on the ceiling. I confronted him. About you. About what happened 13 years ago. Still nothing. Landon swallowed hard. He admitted it. Not directly. But he didn't deny it either. Clara's jaw tightened slightly. But she didn't speak. He said you didn't matter, Landon continued, his voice breaking. He said Eris didn't matter. He called her a mistake. Clara's hands clenched the bedsheet. I asked him why he never acknowledged her. Why he never helped you. Landon's tears fell freely now. He said it would have ruined his reputation, his career, his life. The room felt suffocating, heavy with unsaid words. So he left you alone, Landon whispered, with nothing. And I finished what he started. Clara finally turned her head. Her eyes met Landon's. They were dark, hollow. Why are you telling me this? She asked. Landon's throat tightened. Because you deserve to know the truth. About him. About me. About everything. I already knew the truth, Clara said flatly. I knew it 13 years ago, when he walked away. Landon flinched. Then why didn't you? Why didn't I what? Clara's voice rose. Chase him down? Demand child support? Ruin his precious reputation? She sat up slowly, wincing from the effort. Because I had nothing. No money. No connections. No power. Her eyes burned into Landon's. And people like your father? They always win. Landon shook his head. That's not fair. Fair? Clara laughed bitterly. You want to talk about fair? She pointed at the door. My daughter is dead. Your father destroyed my life. And you destroyed hers. Landon's whole body trembled. I know I did. Then why are you here? Clara demanded. What do you want from me? Nothing, Landon whispered. I just wanted you to know that I understand now. What you went through. What Eris went through. Clara stared at him. You understand nothing. I'm trying. You can't try, Clara said coldly. You can't understand. Because you've never been powerless. You've never been alone. You've never had to choose between medicine and food. Her voice cracked. You've never had to watch your child suffer because you can't afford to save her. Landon's tears dripped onto the floor. I'm sorry. Stop saying that, Clara said. Your apologies are worthless. Landon nodded. I know. They sat in painful silence. The machines in the room beeped softly. The world outside continued, indifferent to their suffering. Clara lay back down, staring at the ceiling again. Why didn't he love her? The question was so quiet, Landon almost didn't hear it. What? He whispered. Your father, Clara said, her voice distant. Why didn't he love her? Even a little? Landon's chest ached. Because he's not capable of love. Not real love. Clara's eyes filled with tears. She was so easy to love. She was kind, smart, funny. Her voice broke. She drew pictures of birds. She sang off-key. She made terrible jokes. Clara pressed her hands to her face. She was perfect, and he never even tried to know her. Landon felt like he was drowning. I should have known her too. I should have been her brother. Clara lowered her hands. Her face was wet with tears. But you weren't. I know. You were her tormentor, Clara continued. You made her last day on Earth a nightmare. Landon's knees felt weak. He grabbed the edge of the bed to steady himself. She came home crying so many times because of kids like you, Clara said. Kids who mocked her clothes, her lunches, her mother's job. She looked at Landon with devastation in her eyes. And you were the worst of them all. Landon couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. You know what she told me once? Clara whispered. She said she wished her father would come find her. She said maybe if he knew she existed, he'd love her. Clara's voice shattered. She died, hoping someone would love her. And instead, she got you. Landon collapsed to his knees. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Clara watched him break, and she felt nothing. No satisfaction, no relief, just emptiness. Get out, she said quietly. Landon looked up. Miss Daniels, get out, Clara repeated, her voice harder now. You took my daughter's last hours from her. You took her dignity. You took her joy. Her eyes burned into his. Don't take what remains of me. Landon stood slowly. His whole body shook. I just wanted you to know. I don't care what you wanted, Clara said. Leave. Landon backed toward the door. If there's anything I can do, there's nothing, Clara said. You've done enough. Landon reached for the door handle. His hand trembled. Before he left, he turned back one last time. I'll never forgive myself. For as long as I live. Clara stared at the ceiling. Good. The door closed. Clara was alone again. She lay there in the silence, feeling the weight of everything pressing down on her. Eris was gone. Landon was gone. And soon, she would leave this hospital. And go where? Back to an empty apartment? Back to a life without purpose? Clara closed her eyes. For the first time since Eris died, she let herself imagine it, a life without her daughter, without laughter, without hope. A life where she woke up every day to the same unbearable pain. Clara's hand moved to the IV in her arm. She stared at it for a long moment. Then she whispered into the empty room, I don't want to do this anymore. And somewhere deep inside her, something fundamental broke. Not with a scream, not with tears, but with silence. The kind of silence that signals the end of fighting. The kind that whispers, I'm done. Landon returned to the hospital 3 days later. He had given Clara space, time to grieve, time to process everything. But he couldn't stay away. He needed to know she was okay. He walked to her room. The door was open. The bed was empty. Landon's stomach dropped. He stepped inside. The room had been cleaned. All of Clara's belongings were gone. He ran to the nurse's station. Clara Daniels, where is she? The nurse checked her computer. She was discharged 2 days ago. Discharged? Landon's voice rose. Where did she go? I'm sorry, sir. We don't have that information. What do you mean you don't have it? Landon demanded. You have to have an address. Emergency contact. Something. The nurse's expression softened. She refused to provide one. She signed herself out against medical advice. Landon felt the ground tilt beneath him. She just left? Yes. Did she say where she was going? The nurse shook her head. No. She took her daughter's belongings and walked out. Landon stumbled backward. Clara was gone. He drove to her apartment. The building was old, paint peeling, stairs creaking under his weight. He knocked on her door. No answer. He knocked again, harder. Miss Daniels, it's Landon. Please, I just want to make sure you're okay. Nothing. A neighbor opened their door. An elderly woman with suspicious eyes. You looking for Clara? Yes, Landon said quickly. Have you seen her? The woman shook her head. She moved out yesterday, took what she could carry, and left. Landon's chest tightened. Did she say where she was going? No, just said she couldn't stay here anymore. The woman's expression softened. Heard about her daughter. Terrible thing. Landon nodded numbly. Do you know if she left a forwarding address? No idea. The woman stepped back inside. Hope she finds peace, poor thing. The door closed. Landon stood in the empty hallway. Clara had vanished. No trace. No contact. No way to find her. He went to the school next. Maybe she had quit. Maybe someone knew where she went. The receptionist recognized him immediately. Her face hardened. You have some nerve showing up here. I'm looking for Clara Daniels, Landon said. The janitor. Do you know where she is? She quit, the receptionist said coldly. Sent in her resignation by email. Didn't even come pick up her final inten. Check. Landon's heart sank. Did she leave a contact number? No. The receptionist glared at him. And even if she did, I wouldn't give it to you. Landon left the school feeling hollow. He checked homeless shelters, community centers, churches, anywhere Clara might have gone for help. No one had seen her. It was like she had disappeared into thin air. A week passed. Then 2. Landon couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Guilt consumed him. He had driven Clara away, destroyed her life so completely that she had to erase herself just to survive. One rainy afternoon, Landon returned to the hospital. He went to the nurse's station where Clara had been. Did Miss Daniels leave anything behind? He asked desperately. Anything at all? The nurse hesitated. Then she reached under the desk and pulled out an envelope. She left this, the nurse said quietly. She told me to give it to you if you came looking for her. Landon's hands shook as he took the envelope. His name was written on the front, in Clara's handwriting. He walked to the parking lot before opening it. Inside was a single piece of paper and a photograph. The photo was of Eris, smiling, happy, probably from a school picture day. Landon's throat tightened. He had never seen her smile like this. He turned to the note. The words were simple, direct, final. I will not let the man who broke my child break what remains of me. Don't look for me. Don't contact me. I need to disappear to survive. Some people can't be saved. Some things can't be fixed. Leave me alone. Clara. Landon read it 3 times. Rain poured down around him, soaking through his clothes. Clara was gone. Really gone. Not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually. She had chosen to vanish, rather than exist in a world where her daughter's killer walked free. Some people disappear, not because they want to, but because the world took everything. Don't let stories like hers be forgotten. Landon stood in the rain, clutching the note. Water blurred. The ink. But he didn't move. He had wanted to help her, to support her, to ease her pain. But Clara didn't want any of that. She wanted to be left alone, and Landon had to respect that, even if it killed him. He folded the note carefully and put it back in the envelope. He looked at Eris's photo one more time. Her smile, her eyes, the innocence he had destroyed. Landon whispered into the rain, I'm sorry I never knew you. I'm sorry I never protected you. He kissed the photo gently and placed it back in the envelope. Then he walked to his car and sat inside, dripping wet. Clara was gone. Eris was gone. And Landon was left with nothing but guilt and memories. He started the engine, but didn't drive. He just sat there, staring at nothing. The rain pounded against the windshield. The world outside was gray and cold. Landon looked at the envelope on the passenger seat. Clara's final words to him, leave me alone. He had no choice but to obey. Because some people need distance to heal. Some people need to disappear to survive. And Clara Daniels was one of them. Landon drove home through the rain. His house felt empty, cold. He went to his room and placed the envelope in a drawer. He couldn't throw it away, couldn't forget it. It was all he had left of Clara and Eris. A note, a photo, and a lifetime of regret. That night, Landon lay in bed staring at the ceiling. He wondered where Clara was, if she was safe, if she was eating, if she was sleeping, or if she was out there somewhere, hollow and broken, just trying to make it through one more day. He would never know. Because Clara had made her choice. She had chosen disappearance over connection, solitude over support, silence over confrontation, and Landon had to live with that. He closed his eyes and whispered into the darkness, "I hope you find peace, Miss Daniels, wherever you are." But deep down, he knew the truth. People like Clara don't find peace. They just find ways to survive. And sometimes, survival means vanishing completely. Landon turned over and tried to sleep. But all he saw was Eris's smile in that photo. The smile he never got to see in person. The smile he had destroyed before he ever knew it existed. And somewhere out there, in a city full of people, Clara Daniels walked alone, invisible, forgotten, lost, exactly the way she wanted to be. Landon walked into his father's office without knocking. His father looked up from his desk, irritation flashing across his face. "I'm in the middle of something." "She's dead," Landon said flatly. His father's expression didn't change. "Who?" "Eris." Landon's voice shook. "Your daughter. She died a week ago." His father set down his pen slowly. "I told you not to bring this up again." "She was 12 years old," Landon continued. "She couldn't breathe. Her heart gave out, and she died thinking no one loved her." His father leaned back in his chair. "That's unfortunate. Unfortunate." The word hit Landon like a slap. "That's all you have to say?" Landon's voice rose. "She was your child." "Allegedly," his father corrected. "I never confirmed that." "You didn't deny it either," Landon shot back. "You knew. You've always known." His father shrugged. "Even if she was mine, what difference does it make now?" Landon stared at him. "How can you say that?" "Because it's true," his father said coldly. "She's gone." The mother disappeared. "It's over." "It's not over for me," Landon shouted. "I destroyed her. I bullied her. I kicked her inhaler across the room." His father's eyes narrowed. "And now you feel guilty. Is that what this is about?" "Yes," Landon's voice cracked. "I feel guilty because I should feel guilty." His father stood up, his voice hardening. "Then deal with it. But don't come in here expecting me to share your burden." Landon felt something break inside him. "She was your daughter. She was a mistake," his father said dismissively. "One I didn't ask for. One I didn't want." Landon's hands clenched into fists. "You're a monster." His father walked around the desk, standing inches from Landon's face. "I'm a realist. The world is full of people like her. Poor, struggling, invisible." He paused. "They don't matter in the grand scheme of things." Landon took a step back, disgusted. "How did I ever look up to you?" His father smiled coldly. "Because you wanted to be like me. Successful, powerful, respected." "I was wrong," Landon whispered. His father's smile faded. "You'll understand when you're older. When you have something to protect. A reputation. A legacy." "If that's what legacy means," Landon said, "then I don't want it." His father's eyes hardened. "Don't be naive. The world doesn't care about your morals. It cares about results." Landon looked at his father, really looked at him, and for the first time, he saw him clearly. Not as a successful businessman, not as a powerful man, not as someone to admire, but as what he truly was: empty, cold, cruel. Landon reached down and unclasped the bracelet from his wrist, the one his father had given him, the Pierce family heirloom. He held it out. "I don't want this anymore." His father glanced at the bracelet, then back at Landon. "Don't be dramatic." "I'm not," Landon said. "I'm done. With you. With this family. With everything you stand for." He placed the bracelet on the desk. It clinked against the wood. His father didn't pick it up. "You'll regret this." "No," Landon said quietly. "The only thing I regret is not seeing you for who you are sooner." He turned toward the door. "Landon!" his father called out. Landon stopped but didn't turn around. "You're making a mistake," his father said. "Walking away from your family. Your future." Landon's jaw tightened. "You're not my family. You're just the man who destroyed 2 lives and felt nothing. People like them don't." Landon interrupted, his voice sharp. "Don't finish that sentence." His father fell silent. Landon looked over his shoulder one last time. "You want to know what I learned from all of this?" His father didn't respond. I learned that money doesn't make you powerful, Landon said. It just makes you dangerous. He walked out. The door closed behind him with a soft click. His father stood alone in his office, staring at the bracelet on the desk. For a moment, something flickered in his eyes. Regret? Guilt? But then he picked up the bracelet, placed it in a drawer, and went back to work. Because people like him don't change. They just move on. Outside, Landon walked through the rain. His chest felt lighter, his breathing easier. He had severed the tie, cut himself free from the man who had poisoned everything he touched. But the damage his father caused remained. Clara was still gone. Eris was still dead. And nothing Landon did would ever change that. He looked up at the sky, rain streaming down his face. I'll never be like you, he whispered. And he meant it. 2 generations of Pierce men had destroyed Clara's life. But it ended here. With Landon. He would spend the rest of his life making sure no one else suffered the way Eris did, the way Clara did. Not because it would erase his guilt. It wouldn't. But because it was the only way forward. The only way to become someone worth being. Landon walked away from his father's building. He didn't look back. Behind him, the rain washed away his footprints. But the scars he carried inside would never fade. Some things can't be undone. Some sins can't be forgiven. But maybe, just maybe, they can be learned from. Landon whispered into the storm. I'm sorry, Eris. I'm sorry, Miss Daniels. The wind carried his words away. And somewhere, in a place he would never find, Clara Daniels sat alone in a small room. She had heard nothing, felt nothing, wanted nothing, because the world had taken everything from her. And all she had left was the memory of a daughter who deserved better, a daughter who never got the love she needed, a daughter whose last day on earth was filled with cruelty. Clara closed her eyes and whispered into the darkness, I'm sorry I couldn't save you, baby. And in that moment, 2 broken people miles apart shared the same unbearable truth. Some damage is permanent, some losses never heal, and some families are destroyed before they ever have a chance to exist. Landon stopped going to school. He didn't tell anyone, didn't explain. He just stopped showing up. His phone rang constantly. Friends, teachers, his mother. He ignored them all. He stayed in his room with the lights off, curtains drawn, door locked, and that's when the voices started. At first, it was just at night, when the house was quiet and his mind had nothing to distract it. He would hear her, please stop, Eris's voice. Small, broken, begging. Landon would sit up in bed, heart pounding. But the room was empty. Just his imagination. Just guilt playing tricks. But the voice didn't go away. It followed him into the day, into every moment, every breath. Please. He heard it when he looked in the mirror, when he tried to eat, when he closed his eyes. Eris's trembling whisper, the one she had spoken while his classmates filmed. While he stood over her, cruel and smiling, Landon covered his ears, but the voice was inside his head. Please stop! He saw her everywhere. In the classroom, on her knees, gathering her scattered belongings. In the parking lot, collapsing in her mother's arms. In the hospital bed, pale and still. Every memory was vivid, sharp, unforgiving. He remembered the way her hands shook when he snatched the lunchbox. The way her breathing quickened when he kicked her inhaler. The way she looked at him with tears streaming down her face. Like she was trying to understand why. Landon pressed his palms to his eyes. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But apologies don't reach the dead. Days blurred together. He stopped eating, stopped sleeping. His body felt heavy, his mind clouded. His mother knocked on his door. Landon? Sweetheart, please, come out. He didn't respond. You need to eat something. You need to talk to someone. Landon stared at the ceiling. Leave me alone. Your father said you had a fight. Maybe we can... I said, leave me alone, Landon shouted. His mother's footsteps retreated. The house fell silent again. Landon rolled over, staring at the wall. On his desk was the envelope Clara had left. Eris's photo inside. He couldn't look at it, couldn't bear to see her smile, because he knew the truth. That smile had faded long before she died. He had crushed it out of her, made her afraid to exist, made her wish she was invisible. Guilt doesn't fade. It lives with you. If you've felt this kind of regret, you're not alone. Landon got out of bed and stumbled to his desk. He opened the envelope with shaking hands. Eris's photo stared back at him, her eyes bright, her smile genuine. He traced the edge of the photo with his finger. "I'm sorry I never knew you." His voice cracked. "I'm sorry I was the worst thing that ever happened to you." He placed the photo on his desk and sank to the floor, his back against the wall. His knees pulled to his chest, and he cried, deep, broken sobs that shook his entire body. He replayed every moment, every cruel word, every laugh at her expense. He remembered her reaching for the inhaler, the way her small fingers trembled. He remembered forcing her chin up, making her look at him, making her feel worthless. He remembered the class chanting, the phones recording, the way Eris had whispered, "Please," like it was the only word she had left. Landon buried his face in his hands. What did I do? What did I do? But he knew what he did. He destroyed her, crushed her spirit, made her last day on earth a nightmare. And now she was gone. Forever. No second chances, no do-overs, no way to make it right. Landon's chest tightened. He couldn't breathe. The room felt too small, too suffocating. He stumbled to the window and threw it open. Cold air rushed in, but it didn't help. Nothing helped. Because guilt isn't something you can escape. It lives inside you. A constant weight, a permanent scar. Landon looked out at the night sky. Stars dotted the darkness. He wondered if Eris could see them now. If wherever she was finally at peace. He hoped so, because she deserved peace. She deserved happiness. She deserved a life free from cruelty. But the world had given her the opposite, and Landon had been the worst of it. He closed the window and returned to the floor. He curled up, his knees to his chest, his arms wrapped around himself. "I'm sorry," he whispered into the darkness. "I'm so sorry." But the darkness didn't answer. It never did. Landon stayed like that for hours, whispering apologies to a girl who would never hear them, begging for forgiveness he would never receive. When morning came, he hadn't moved. His mother knocked again. "Landon, I'm worried about you. Please, let me in." Landon's voice came out flat, empty. "I'm fine." "You're not fine," his mother said. "You haven't eaten in days. You haven't left your room." "I said I'm fine." His mother hesitated. "Your father told me what happened. About that girl. About her mother." Landon's jaw tightened. "He said you're being dramatic," his mother continued. "But I don't think you are." Landon didn't respond. "If you need to talk." "I don't," Landon interrupted. His mother sighed. "Okay, but I'm here, whenever you're ready." Her footsteps faded down the hallway. Landon lay back down on the floor. He stared at the ceiling, and he heard it again. "Please stop." Eris's voice. Haunting, relentless, unforgiving. Landon closed his eyes. "I can't stop hearing you." The voice didn't answer. It just repeated, "Please stop." Over and over, like a broken record, like a curse he would carry forever. Landon whispered into the empty room, "I'll hear you for the rest of my life, won't I?" And somewhere deep inside, he knew the answer, yes. Because some sins don't fade. Some guilt doesn't disappear. It just becomes part of who you are. A ghost you carry, a voice you can't silence, a reminder that some things can never be undone. Landon curled tighter into himself, and he whispered one last time, "I'm sorry, Eris. I'm so sorry." But apologies don't reach the dead. They just echo in the minds of the living, forever. Landon couldn't stay in that room anymore. The voices, the guilt, the suffocating silence. He had to find Clara. He had to know she was okay, even if she hated him, even if she refused to see him. He just needed to know she was alive. He started at the homeless shelters. The first one was downtown, a converted warehouse with cots lined up in rows. The smell of sweat and old food hung in the air. Landon approached the front desk. "I'm looking for someone." A woman named Clara Daniels. The volunteer checked the sign-in sheet. "We don't have anyone by that name." Are you sure? She might be using a different name. The volunteer looked at him with tired eyes. We have a lot of people come through here. Can you describe her? Brown hair. About 5'5". Tired eyes. She recently lost her daughter. The volunteer's expression softened. I'm sorry, but no one matching that description has been here. Landon tried 3 more shelters. The answer was always the same. No, Clara. No one had seen her. He went to churches next. Places that offered meals, counseling, support. Have you seen this woman? Landon showed them the photo from the hospital records he'd managed to get. Clara standing in the background of a staff photo. Every answer was the same. Sorry, no. Landon checked community centers, food banks, clinics. No one had seen her. No one knew where she was. It was like Clara had vanished from existence. Weeks passed. Landon's search became obsessive. Every free moment was spent looking for her. He drove through neighborhoods where she might have gone, asked store clerks, showed her photo to anyone who would look. Nothing. One afternoon, Landon went to the cemetery where Eris was buried. He had paid for the plot, the headstone, everything. It was a small grave in a quiet corner. The headstone was simple, just her name, her dates, and a line Landon had chosen. Loved more than words could say. Landon knelt beside it. He placed fresh flowers in the holder. I'm trying to find your mom, he whispered, but I don't know where she is. The wind rustled through the trees. Birds sang in the distance. I need to know she's okay, Landon continued. I need to make sure she's not giving up. He touched the cold stone. I'm sorry I failed you both. A voice spoke behind him. You here to visit someone? Landon turned. An older man in work clothes stood there. The cemetery caretaker. Yeah, Landon said quietly. My sister. The caretaker's face softened. I'm sorry for your loss. Landon nodded. Do you ever see anyone else visit this grave? The caretaker thought for a moment. I can't say I have. Been here 3 months now. Never seen anyone except you. Landon's stomach dropped. No one? Not even her mother? The caretaker shook his head. The mother? No. She's never been here. Landon felt like he'd been punched. Never? Not once, the caretaker confirmed. You're the only one who comes. Landon stared at Eris's grave. Clara hadn't visited. Not even once. That meant she wasn't healing. She wasn't moving forward. She was hiding, running, disappearing. The caretaker cleared his throat. Sometimes, grief is too heavy to face. Some people can't visit because it makes it too real. Landon stood slowly. Or they're trying to forget. Maybe, the caretaker said. But you can't forget someone you loved that much. It's not possible. Landon thanked him and walked back to his car. Clara wasn't visiting Eris's grave. Wasn't saying goodbye. Wasn't finding closure. She was somewhere out there, carrying all that pain alone. Landon drove to the library next. He searched online. Social, media, public records. Anything that might give him a clue. Nothing. Clara Daniels had no digital footprint. No social media accounts. No address on file. No phone number. She had erased herself completely. Landon slumped in his chair. How do you find someone who doesn't want to be found? Someone who has no ties, no connections, no trace. He tried the hospital one more time. Maybe someone remembered something. Anything. The nurse who had been there the night Eris died recognized him. You're still looking for her? Yes, Landon said desperately. Please, if you know anything. The nurse hesitated. She came by once. About a month ago. Landon's heart jumped. Where? When? Late at night. She asked to see her daughter's medical records. Said she needed closure. Did she say where she was staying? The nurse shook her head. No. She was only here for 10 minutes. Then she left. Landon's hope crashed. Did she seem okay? The nurse's expression darkened. No. She looked hollow, like she was barely holding on. Landon closed his eyes. Thank you. He walked out of the hospital feeling more hopeless than ever. Clara was out there somewhere, alone, broken, barely surviving, and he couldn't find her. That night, Landon lay in bed staring at the ceiling. He had searched everywhere, asked everyone, done everything he could think of, But Clara was gone, and maybe that was for the best. Maybe she needed distance from everything that reminded her of what she'd lost. Maybe she needed to be away from him most of all. Landon whispered into the darkness, "I hope you're safe, Miss Daniels, wherever you are." But deep down, he knew the truth. Clara wasn't safe. She wasn't okay. She was hiding, surviving day by day, carrying unbearable pain with no one to share it with. And there was nothing Landon could do about it. Because some people don't want to be found. Some people choose isolation over connection. And sometimes, the kindest thing you can do is let them go. Even if it kills you not to know. Landon rolled over and closed his eyes. But sleep wouldn't come. Because somewhere out there, Clara was alone. And her daughter's grave sat empty, unvisited, forgotten. Not because Clara didn't care, but because facing it would destroy her. And Landon understood that now. Some pain is too big to face. Some losses are too deep to acknowledge. And sometimes, survival means running from the truth. Even if the truth is buried 6 feet under, with a headstone that reads, "Loved more than words could say." Landon returned to the school one last time. It was late. The building was empty. The hallways dark and silent. He walked to the classroom where everything had happened, where he had destroyed Eris. The door was unlocked. He stepped inside. The room looked the same. Desks in neat rows. Whiteboard clean. No trace of what had happened here. But Landon could see it all. Could hear the laughter. The phones recording Eris's trembling voice. "Please stop." He walked to date her. The spot where she had knelt. Where her belongings had scattered across the floor. And that's when he saw it. Beneath one of the desks, a crumpled piece of paper. Landon's breath caught. He knelt down and picked it up carefully. It was torn, dirty, stepped on dozens of times, but he recognized it immediately. Eris's drawing. The one he had kicked across the room. The one he had crushed under his shoe. Landon's hands shook as he unfolded it. The paper was ripped in several places. Parts were missing, but he could still make out the image. 3 stick figures, drawn in crayon. The first was labeled, "Me," a small figure with a big smile. The second was labeled, "Mommy," taller, holding the first figure's hand. And the third, Landon's throat tightened. The third figure was labeled, "Dad, one day." But it was just an outline. Empty, unfinished, like she was waiting for someone to fill it in. Landon stared at the drawing. At the hope captured in those simple lines. Eris had dreamed of a father. Someone who would love her, protect her, be part of her family. And Landon had been right there. Her actual brother. Her blood. But instead of being that person, he had destroyed her. Landon carefully folded the drawing and left the classroom. At home, he spread it out on his desk. He searched through the trash from that day. Found more pieces that had been swept away. He worked for hours, taping the torn edges together, matching the fragments, rebuilding what he had broken. When he finished, the drawing was whole again. Scarred, torn, but whole. Landon stared at it. At the 3 figures. At the empty space where Dad should have been. He traced the outline with his finger. "I could have been him." His voice cracked. "I could have been the person you needed." But he wasn't. He was the opposite. He was the nightmare. The tormentor. The reason she couldn't breathe. Some dreams never come true because we destroy them before they bloom. Share this if you believe everyone deserves to be seen. Landon placed the drawing in a frame. His hands trembled as he secured the back. He set it on his desk, right where he could see it every day. A reminder, a monument, a punishment. He sat down and stared at it. At Eris's childish handwriting, at her hopeful smile, at the empty figure waiting to be loved. And he broke. Deep, soul-crushing sobs tore through him. He buried his face in his hands. "I'm so sorry," he whispered. "I should have been better. I should have seen you." But he hadn't seen her. Hadn't cared about her. Hadn't thought about what she might be feeling. He had only seen someone to mock. Someone beneath him. Someone who didn't matter. And now, she was gone. The drawing sat there. Silent. Accusing. 3 stick figures that would never be complete. Because the father had abandoned her, and the brother had destroyed her. Landon wiped his eyes. He looked at the drawing again, at Mommy holding Me's hand, the only love Eris had ever known, Clara, the woman who had sacrificed everything, who had worked herself to exhaustion, who had loved her daughter more than life itself. And where was she now? Alone, hiding, broken. Landon whispered to the drawing, "I should have protected you both." He stood up and walked to his window. The night was dark. Stars dotted the sky. He wondered if Eris could see those stars now. If she was somewhere better, somewhere without cruelty. He hoped so, because she had deserved so much more than this world gave her. She had deserved a family, love, safety, happiness. Instead, she got poverty, asthma, bullying, death. Landon pressed his forehead against the cold glass. "You deserve the world, Eris." He looked back at the drawing, at the framed reminder of everything he had destroyed. "I should have been the person you dreamed of," he whispered. But he wasn't, and he never would be. Because some opportunities only come once, some moments can't be reclaimed, and some people die before you realize how much they mattered. Landon sat back down at his desk. He pulled out a notebook and started writing. Not an apology. Those were worthless. But a promise. A promise to never forget her. To never let her story disappear. To never allow another child to suffer the way she did. He wrote until his hand cramped. Until the words blurred together. Until exhaustion finally pulled him under. When he woke hours later, his head was on the desk. The drawing stared back at him. 3 stick figures. 1 complete family that never got to exist. Landon touched the glass of the frame. "I'll carry you with me, forever." And he would. Not as redemption, not as forgiveness, but as a reminder of the worst thing he had ever done. The drawing would sit on his desk for the rest of his life. A permanent scar, a visible wound, a truth he could never escape. Because some sins don't fade, some guilt doesn't disappear. It just becomes part of who you are. And Landon Pierce would spend the rest of his life looking at that drawing. At the empty father figure. At the hopeful little girl. At the mother who loved her beyond measure. And he would remember every single day that he had the chance to be someone's hero, and he chose to be their nightmare instead. The drawing sat in its frame, silent, unforgiving, true, and Landon whispered one last time, "I'm sorry I never got to know you, Eris. I'm sorry I destroyed the person you could have been." But the drawing didn't answer. It never would. Because some dreams die before they bloom, and some people never get the love they deserve, no matter how much they hope, no matter how many pictures they draw, no matter how desperately they wish for a family that will never come. Landon sat on a bench in the small park behind the school, the same park where Eris used to come, where she would sit and draw while her mother cleaned classrooms. A janitor at the school had told him, "That little girl, she loved this place, used to draw birds and trees for hours." Now Landon sat where she once sat, holding the framed drawing in his lap. The park was quiet. A few children played in the distance. Their laughter echoed across the empty space. Landon watched them. A little girl ran toward her mother, arms outstretched. The mother caught her and spun her around, both of them laughing. Eris never got that moment. She never got to run carefree. Never got to feel safe. Never got to just be a child. Landon's chest tightened. He looked down at the drawing, at the 3 stick figures. "You should be here," he whispered. He stood and walked to the swings. They swayed gently in the breeze, empty, waiting. Landon sat on one swing. He placed the framed drawing carefully on the swing beside him, as if Eris was sitting there. He pushed off gently. The chains creaked. His feet dragged through the dirt, and he imagined, what if Eris was alive? What if she was here right now? She would be swinging, her hair flying behind her, her laugh bright and free. Clara would be watching, from the bench, tired but smiling, proud of her daughter. And maybe Landon would be here too, not as a bully, but as a brother, pushing Eris higher on the swing, making her laugh, keeping her safe. The image was so clear, so vivid, so painfully impossible. Landon stopped swinging. He looked at the empty swing beside him, at the drawing that represented everything that could have been. In another life, he whispered, I would have known you. He imagined her growing up, graduating, going to college, falling in love. He imagined Clara watching her daughter achieve everything she had dreamed of. He imagined being there, supporting them, making up for his father's sins, being the family they deserved. But none of that would ever happen, because Eris was gone, and Clara had vanished, and the future Landon imagined had died in that hospital room. A breeze picked up. The swing beside him moved, slowly, gently, as if someone invisible was sitting there. Landon's throat tightened. I wish I could have known you, Eris. The swing swayed. The drawing inside the frame caught the sunlight. For a moment, it looked almost alive, like the stick figures were moving, like the little girl labeled Me was actually smiling at him. Landon reached out and steadied the swing. I'll remember you for the rest of my life. It wasn't a promise of redemption. It wasn't hope for forgiveness. It was just the truth. Eris would live in his memory, in his guilt, in the framed drawing that sat on his desk. She would haunt him, not as a ghost, but as a reminder of what he destroyed, of who he could have been, of the cruelty he chose. The children in the distance kept playing. Their parents watched from nearby. Life continued, but Landon sat frozen, holding on to a moment that didn't exist, a future that would never come. He closed his eyes, and for just a second, he let himself believe that Eris was here, that she was swinging beside him, that she was happy, believe that Clara was watching, that she had forgiven him, that they were all okay. But when he opened his eyes, the swing was still empty. The drawing sat alone, silent, still, and reality crashed back down. Landon picked up the frame. He held it close to his chest. You deserved better, he whispered. You deserved everything. He stood up slowly. His legs felt heavy, his heart heavier. He looked around the park one last time, at the swings, the trees, the grass where Eris used to sit and draw. This place had been her escape, her sanctuary, her small piece of peace. And now it was just another reminder of what he had stolen. Landon walked toward the exit, but before he left, he turned back. The swing was still moving, just barely, like someone had just gotten off. Landon's breath caught. Goodbye, Eris. The wind carried his words away. The swing slowed, and then stopped. Everything went still. Landon stood there for a long moment. Then he whispered one last thing. I hope wherever you are, you're finally happy. He turned and walked away. The framed drawing tucked under his arm. Behind him, the park remained quiet, peaceful, empty. A place where a little girl once dreamed, once hoped, once existed. Before the world took everything from her, Landon got into his car. He placed the drawing carefully on the passenger seat. And as he drove away, he glanced in the rearview mirror. The park was disappearing behind him. The swings barely visible now, but the image stayed burned in his mind. An empty swing, moving gently in the breeze, as if someone was still there, still hoping, still dreaming, still waiting for a family that would never come. Landon wiped his eyes. I'll never forget you. And he wouldn't, because some people leave marks that never fade. Some losses echo forever, and some guilt becomes a permanent part of who you are. Landon drove through the city. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the streets. He looked at the drawing beside him, at the 3 stick figures, at the empty father, at the hopeful little girl, and he whispered into the quiet car, I should have been better. But should have doesn't change the past. It just haunts the present. And Landon knew he would carry this weight for the rest of his life. Not as punishment, not as redemption, but as remembrance. Because the dead deserve to be remembered, even when those who destroyed them are the only ones left to remember. The car moved forward. The park faded behind him. But Eris's memory stayed, permanent, unshakable, true. And somewhere far away, in a place Landon would never find, Clara sat alone. She didn't know about the park, didn't know about the drawing, didn't know Landon was trying to remember. She just knew the pain, the emptiness, the unbearable silence, and she wondered not for the first time if it would ever end. Landon found the letter on his doorstep 3 months later. No postmark, no return address, just his name written on a plain white envelope. His hands shook as he picked it up. He recognized the handwriting immediately. Clara. He tore it open. Inside was a single piece of paper and something else, something small. Landon unfolded the paper first. Only one sentence was written there. Some things break once and stay broken forever. That was it. Nothing else. No explanation. No closure. Just that single devastating truth. Landon's chest tightened. He looked inside the envelope again. A small piece of paper fell out, torn from a notebook. The edges rough, the paper yellowed, and on it, in Eris's childish handwriting, was a single word: family. Landon's knees weakened. He sank onto the front steps, clutching both pieces of paper. Clara had kept this, had carried it with her, had chosen this of all things to send him. Not anger, not accusations, not demands, just this, a reminder, a truth, a finality. Landon read Clara's words again. Some things break once and stay broken forever. She wasn't talking about objects. She was talking about trust, about innocence, about the bond that should have existed between him and Eris. Things that, once shattered, could never be repaired. Landon looked at Eris's handwriting. The way she had carefully formed each letter, the slight slant, the innocence in every stroke. She had written this word, hoping it would come true. Family. The thing she wanted most. The thing she never got. And Landon had been right there. Her actual brother. Her blood. But he had given her the opposite of family. He had given her cruelty, humiliation, pain. Landon pressed the paper to his chest. I'm so sorry. But apologies meant nothing now. Clara had made that clear. She didn't want his guilt, didn't want his explanations, didn't want anything from him. She just wanted him to know, to understand, to carry the weight forever. And he would. Some people never get closure. If this story moved you, let it remind you to be kinder before it's too late. Landon sat on those steps for hours. The sun set, the streetlights came on, the neighborhood grew quiet. But he didn't move. He just sat there, holding those 2 pieces of paper, one from a woman who had lost everything, the other from a girl who never got what she deserved. Finally, Landon stood. His legs were stiff, his body ached. He walked inside and went straight to his desk, to the framed drawing, to the reminder he looked at every day. He placed Eris's handwritten note beside it. Family. The word that should have connected them, but instead became the final proof of what he had destroyed. Landon whispered into the quiet room, I'll carry this, every day, not as redemption, not as forgiveness, but as truth. Clara didn't hate him. That would require energy, emotion, connection. She simply didn't need him, didn't want him, didn't think about him at all. And somehow, that was worse than hatred, because hatred acknowledges your existence. It means you still matter enough to feel something toward. But Clara's letter? It was dismissal, finality, the closing of a door that would never open again. Landon sat at his desk. He read Clara's sentence one more time. Some things break once and stay broken forever. She was right. He knew she was right. The trust he shattered, the spirit he crushed, the life he stole. All broken, all permanent, all irreversible. Landon placed the letter in his desk drawer, next to the hospital photo, next to everything else that reminded him of what he'd done. He looked at the framed drawing, at Eris's hopeful smile, at the word family now sitting beside it, and he understood something Clara had already accepted. Forgiveness wasn't coming. Closure wasn't possible. The past couldn't be changed. All that remained was the weight, the memory, the permanent scar. Landon whispered to the empty room. I understand, Miss Daniels. She had sent this letter not to hurt him, not to punish him, but to release herself, to let go of the one last thread connecting them. By telling him the truth that some things stay broken forever. She was freeing herself from the burden of his guilt. She didn't need to forgive him, didn't need to hate him, didn't need to think about him at all. She just needed him to know. And now he did. Landon lay down on his bed. He stared at the ceiling. Clara was out there somewhere, still hiding, still grieving, still carrying unbearable pain. But she was done with him, done with his apologies, done with his attempts to make things right. And that was her right, her choice, her only path to survival. Landon closed his eyes. But sleep didn't come, because the letter had done exactly what Clara intended. It had given him understanding, clarity, truth, but not peace. Never peace. Some things break once and stay broken forever. And Landon Pierce was one of them. The next morning, Landon woke to find something strange. He walked to his desk. The framed drawing was still there. Eris's note was still there. But beside them, someone had placed a single white flower. Landon's heart stopped. He looked around the room. The window was closed. The door was locked. No one could have gotten in. He picked up the flower carefully. It was fresh, real, still dewy. His hands trembled. Eris, but there was no answer. Just silence. Landon placed the flower back down. His mind raced. Maybe his mother had come in while he slept. Maybe he was losing his mind. Maybe. But deep down, he knew. Some things can't be explained. Some moments defy logic. And sometimes, the dead find ways to remind the living. Landon whispered to the room, "I hear you. I see you. I remember you." The flower sat beside the drawing. A small, impossible gift. From a girl who wanted nothing more than to be part of a family. And from a mother who had finally let go. Landon sat down slowly. He looked at the flower, at the drawing, at the word family, and he whispered one final truth. "I'll never forget you, either of you, because some memories are permanent. Some guilt is eternal. And some people haunt you not because they want revenge, but because they deserved to be remembered." And Landon would remember every single day. For the rest of his life, the flower, the drawing, the word, all of it, together, forever. A shrine to what could have been, and a reminder of what was destroyed. 10 years passed. Landon stood in front of a classroom full of students. Not as a bully, but as a tutor. He volunteered 3 nights a week, helping kids who struggled, kids whose parents couldn't afford private lessons. Kids like Eris. One student raised her hand. "Mr. Pierce, I don't understand this problem." Landon walked over. He knelt beside her desk, explained it slowly, patiently, the way he should have treated Eris. The girl smiled. "Oh, I get it now. Thank you." Landon nodded, but the gratitude felt hollow, empty, because no amount of helping others could erase what he'd done. After class, Landon packed his things. The school principal stopped him in the hallway. "Landon, the kids love you. You're making a real difference." Landon forced a smile. "I'm just trying to help." "Well, you're doing great," the principal said. "We're lucky to have you." Landon walked to his car, but he didn't feel lucky. He felt like a fraud. He drove to the children's hospital next. He had been donating for years, anonymously at first, but they had figured out who he was. A nurse greeted him warmly. "Mr. Pierce, we weren't expecting you today. Just wanted to check in," Landon said. "See if you need anything." The nurse smiled. "Your donations have saved so many lives. Asthma treatments, emergency surgeries. You're a hero to these kids." Landon's chest tightened. "I'm not a hero." "Of course you are," the nurse insisted. "You've given us the resources to help families who can't afford care." Landon looked away. "It's the least I can do." But it wasn't enough. It would never be enough. Because for every child he helped, he saw Eris, struggling to breathe, begging for help, dying alone. Landon left the hospital. He drove through the city, past shelters where he volunteered on weekends, past community centers where he taught coding to underprivileged kids. He had built an entire life around helping others, around trying to be better. But every milestone felt like a betrayal. Every success felt like mockery, because Eris never got to graduate, never got to grow up, never got to achieve anything, and no amount of good deeds could change that. Landon pulled into the cemetery. He did this once a month. Every month. For 10 years, he walked to Eris's grave. The headstone was simple, clean, well-maintained. He placed fresh flowers in the holder. White roses, the same ones he brought every time. "I'm still here," he whispered, "still trying to be better." The wind rustled through the trees. Birds sang in the distance. Landon knelt beside the grave. "I tutored 15 kids this month, helped 3 families with hospital bills, volunteered at 4 different shelters." He paused. "But it doesn't feel like enough." The headstone stared back at him, silent, unchanging. "I know it doesn't erase what I did," Landon continued. "Nothing can. I need you to know I'm trying." But was he? Or was he just trying to ease his own guilt? Landon stood slowly. He touched the cold stone. "I think about you every day." And he did, every single day. When he woke up, when he went to work, when he helped others, when he went to sleep, Eris was always there. A permanent presence, a constant reminder. Some days, Landon wondered if this was his punishment. To live a good life, to help others, but to never feel peace. To carry the weight of what he'd done forever, without relief, without forgiveness. He looked at the flowers, at the grave, at the name etched in stone. Eris Daniels. Beloved daughter. Nothing about being a sister. Because Landon had never acknowledged her, never claimed her publicly. He had wanted to, had tried once. But Clara's words stopped him. "Don't you dare claim her now." So he didn't. He just visited. Quietly, alone, a secret mourner for a sister no one knew he had. Landon whispered one last thing. Apologies are weak currency in the economy of regret. He had learned that years ago, had accepted it as truth. Sorry meant nothing when the damage was permanent, when the loss was irreversible. All he could do was remember, and try to be better, even if it never felt like enough. Landon walked back to his car. The cemetery was quiet, peaceful, but his mind was anything but. At home, the framed drawing still sat on his desk. Beside it, Eris's note, and the mysterious white flower, now dried and preserved. Landon looked at them every day, a shrine to what he'd destroyed. He opened his laptop, checked his email. A message from a family he'd helped last month. "Thank you so much for covering our daughter's surgery. She's doing great. You saved her life." Landon stared at the bin. Words. He should feel happy, proud, fulfilled, but all he felt was empty, because every life he saved reminded him of the one he'd taken. He closed the laptop, walked to the window, stared out at the city. 10 years had passed. He was older now, more mature, more aware. But the guilt hadn't faded. It had just settled deeper, become part of him. Landon whispered to his reflection, "When does it get easier?" But he knew the answer. It doesn't. Some guilt is permanent. Some sins can't be redeemed. You just learn to carry them, to function around them, to build a life despite them. But they never leave, never fade, never forgive. Landon turned from the window. He walked to his desk and sat down. He pulled out a journal, the same one he'd been writing in for 10 years. "Dear Eris," he began. It was his 3,652nd entry, one for every day since she died. Some were long, some were short, but he never missed a day. "Today I helped a girl who reminded me of you. Same age, same quiet voice, same scared eyes. I wonder if you would have been like her, shy but strong, scared but brave. I wonder if we would have been close, if you would have forgiven me, if we could have been family. But I'll never know, because I destroyed that chance before it ever existed. I'm sorry. I'll always be sorry, but sorry doesn't bring you back." Landon closed the journal. He placed it back in the drawer, with all the others. 10 years of letters to a dead girl, 10 years of apologies to someone who couldn't hear them. It was pointless, futile, meaningless. But Landon couldn't stop, because if he stopped, he feared he would forget, and forgetting felt like the worst sin of all. His phone buzzed. A text from a volunteer coordinator, Another family needed help. Medical bills they couldn't pay. Landon texted back, "I'll cover it." He always did. He always would. Not because it made him feel better, but because it was all he knew how to do. Help others. Remember her. Carry the weight. Forever. Landon lay down on his bed. Exhausted. Hollow. He stared at the ceiling and whispered into the darkness. 10 years. And it still feels like yesterday. The day Eris died. The day Clara disappeared. The day his entire world shattered. Some things time doesn't heal. Some wounds stay open. Some losses never fade. And Landon knew with absolute certainty that this guilt would follow him to his grave. Because some mistakes are permanent. Some sins are eternal. And some people haunt you not because they want to, but because you deserve to be haunted. Landon closed his eyes. But sleep didn't come easily. It never did. Because every night he heard the same voice. "Please, stop. Eris." Begging. Broken. Gone. And every night, Landon whispered back, "I'm sorry." Knowing it would never be enough. Knowing it would never change anything. Knowing he would carry this burden until the day he died. And maybe even beyond. Landon stood at the edge of the park one final time. 15 years had passed since Eris died. He was older now. Grayer. Worn by time and guilt. But the park hadn't changed. The swings were still there. The trees still swayed in the breeze. And the memories were still fresh. As sharp as the day they were made. Landon carried the framed drawing under his arm. The one he had kept on his desk for 15 years. 3 stick figures. A family that never got to exist. He walked slowly to the swings. His steps heavy. His heart heavier. Children played in the distance. Their laughter echoed across the grass. Life continued. The way it always did. Landon sat on the bench. The same one where he imagined Clara watching her daughter play. He looked at the drawing. At Eris's childish handwriting. At the empty father figure. At the hope captured in those simple lines. "I tried," he whispered. "I tried to be better." And he had. 15 years of helping others. Volunteering. Donating. Teaching. 15 years of trying to balance the scales. To make up for what he'd done. But the scales never balanced. They never would. Because some sins are too heavy. Some losses too great. Some damage too permanent. Landon stood. He walked to the swing where he had once placed the drawing. He removed it from the frame carefully. The glass reflected the sky. Blue. Peaceful. Indifferent. He placed the drawing on the swing. Secured it gently so the wind wouldn't take it immediately. And he stepped back. "I'll never forget you, Eris," he said quietly. "For as long as I live." The drawing sat on the swing. 3 stick figures frozen in hope, in dreams, in possibility. A little girl who wanted a family. A mother who gave everything. And a father who never came. Landon looked at it one last time. "I should have been your brother. I should have protected you." But he hadn't. He had been her nightmare instead. And now, 15 years later, he finally understood the truth Clara had told him. Some things break once and stay broken forever. Landon turned away from the swing. He started walking toward the exit. Behind him, a breeze picked up. The swing began to move. Slowly, gently, as if someone invisible was sitting there. As if Eris had finally come home. Landon paused. He looked over his shoulder. The drawing swayed with the swing. The torn edges fluttered. The stick figures seemed almost alive in the golden evening light. And for just a moment, Landon let himself imagine. Imagine that Eris was there, swinging, smiling, free. Imagine that Clara was watching, peaceful, healed, whole. Imagine that somewhere, somehow, they had found what they deserved. But imagination doesn't change reality. And reality was cruel. Eris was dead. Clara was gone. And the family in that drawing never got to exist. Landon whispered into the wind. Some mistakes don't ask for forgiveness. They ask for a lifetime of remembering. And he would remember. Every day. Every moment. Until his last breath. He turned and walked away. His footsteps soft on the grass. Behind him, The swing continued to move. The drawing caught the light. The wind carried it gently. 3 stick figures, suspended in time, forever hoping, forever waiting. The park grew quieter. The children left. The sun began to set. But the swing kept moving, as if Eris was still there, still dreaming, still believing that one day her family would be complete. Landon reached the parking lot. He stopped and looked back one final time. The swing was barely visible now, just a shadow in the distance, but he could still see the drawing, still see the 3 figures. Me, Mommy, Dad, one day. A family that never got to exist. A dream that never came true. A hope that died before it bloomed. Landon got into his car. He sat there for a long moment, his hands on the steering wheel, his eyes closed. He thought about everything. The classroom, the humiliation, the collapse, the hospital, the flatline. He thought about Clara's disappearance, her letter, her final words. He thought about 15 years of guilt, of trying, of failing to find peace. And he realized something. Redemption wasn't about feeling better. It wasn't about earning forgiveness. It was about carrying the weight, remembering the loss, honoring the person you destroyed by never forgetting them. Landon started the car. He drove away slowly. The park faded in his rearview mirror, but the image stayed burned in his mind. The swing, the drawing, the 3 stick figures, a permanent reminder of what he had done and what he could never undo. If this story broke something in you, don't let it end here. Share it. Let others feel what you felt, because some lessons are too important to scroll past. Landon drove through the city, past the school, past the hospital, past all the places where his life had intersected with Eris's, and he whispered one final truth. I will never be free of this, and I shouldn't be. Because some people deserve to be haunted. Some guilt is earned. Some sins are permanent. Landon Pierce would carry Eris's memory for the rest of his life. Not as redemption, but as consequence, as proof that cruelty has a cost, that words leave scars, that some damage can never be repaired. And somewhere, in a city far away, Clara Daniels sat in a small room. She didn't think about Landon, didn't think about revenge, didn't think about forgiveness. She just thought about Eris, about her smile, her laugh, her dreams, and she whispered into the empty space, I hope you're at peace, baby. I hope wherever you are, you finally got the family you deserved. The wind outside her window picked up, and for just a moment, Clara could have sworn she heard her daughter's voice. Not crying, not begging, not suffering, just laughing, free, happy. Clara closed her eyes. A single tear rolled down her cheek. I love you, Eris. Forever and always. Back at the park, the swing had finally stopped moving. The drawing lay on the seat. Still, silent. 3 stick figures. Forever frozen in hope. A family that never got to exist. A dream that died too soon. A child who deserved better. The sun set completely. Darkness covered the park. But the drawing remained. A testament, a memorial, a reminder that some people are destroyed before they ever get to live, that some families are broken before they ever form, and that some sins echo through lifetimes, never fading, never forgiven, never forgotten. The park was empty now, quiet, still, but if you listened closely, you could almost hear it. A little girl's voice, soft, hopeful, eternal. One day, I'll have a family. And the wind carried those words away, into the night, into memory, into forever, because some dreams live on, even when the dreamer doesn't. Some hopes survive, even when everything else dies, and some lessons are too important to ever be forgotten. The swing swayed one last time, then stopped, and the drawing of 3 stick figures remained, waiting, hoping, remembering. A family that never got to exist, but should have. The end.